Red Zone, Book 1, Wipeout Squad Audiobook Series. Chapter 5, The Mad Scientist and the Truth of the Red Rain. The medical bay was a stark contrast to the nightmare outside. Clinical white walls, humming fluorescent lights, and the antiseptic smell of sterilization protocols working overtime. Dr. Samuel Wolfe stood in the center of the room, his civilian hazmat suit covered in patches and makeshift repairs. He was shorter than Steele had expected, maybe 5'8", with gray hair visible through his faceplate and hands that trembled as he sealed the door behind them. "Thank God," Wolfe breathed, his voice cracking. "I wasn't sure anyone would make it. The complex, it's worse than the projections showed, much worse." Steele swept the room with his carbine, checking corners, scanning for threats. The medical bay was approximately 30 meters square, packed with equipment that looked like it belonged in an orbital research station rather than a planet-side facility. Holographic displays floated in the air, showing molecular structures that twisted and writhed like living things. Banks of refrigeration units lined one wall, their contents hidden behind frosted glass. "Room's clear," Hammer announced, taking position by the door. His armor was scored with claw marks, and his sledgehammer was painted with black ichor that sizzled on the metal. "Dr. Wolfe?" Steele approached the scientist, his HUD reading hour 3:31. "We don't have much time. The Psi-storm is building, and we need those suppressors now." Wolfe nodded quickly, moving to one of the refrigeration units. Yes, of course. But first, you need to understand what you're facing, what we're all facing." He pulled out a case containing 5 auto-injectors, each one filled with a luminescent blue liquid. "These suppressors will buy you 24 hours, maybe, but they're not a cure. Nothing is a cure for what's out there." "We know about the Crimson virus," Deadeye said, checking his rifle scope. "DNA rewriting, transmitted through the fog. We got the briefing before deployment." "No," Wolfe's voice was sharp. "You got the sanitized version, the version Command wants you to believe. The truth is so much worse." Steele exchanged glances with his team. Stitch was leaning against an examination table, his medical scanner running diagnostics on Breach's compromised seal. Breach himself looked pale, sweat beading on his forehead, early signs of fog exposure. "Then tell us the truth," Steele said quietly. "All of it." Wolfe set down the case of injectors and pulled up a holographic display. The image showed a spiral of DNA, but it was wrong. Too many strands, connections that violated everything Steele had learned in basic biology training. The Crimson virus isn't a virus in the traditional sense. It's a soldier rewriting matrix, a weapon designed by something far more advanced than us. Wolfe's hands moved through the hologram, highlighting sections. "Look at the complexity, the sophistication. This didn't evolve naturally. It was engineered to do exactly what it's doing: rewrite human DNA into combat-optimized forms." "You're saying this was deliberate?" Stitch asked, momentarily distracted from his examination of Breach. Breach himself looked pale, sweat beading on his forehead, early signs of fog exposure. "Then tell us the truth," Steele said quietly. "All of it." Wolfe set down the case of injectors and pulled up a holographic display. The image showed a spiral of DNA, but it was wrong. Too many strands, connections that violated everything Steele had learned in basic biology training. The Crimson virus isn't a virus in the traditional sense. It's a soldier rewriting matrix, a weapon designed by something far more advanced than us. Wolfe's hands moved through the hologram, highlighting sections. "Look at the complexity, the sophistication. This didn't evolve naturally. It was engineered to do exactly what it's doing: rewrite human DNA into combat-optimized forms." "You're saying this was deliberate?" Stitch asked, momentarily distracted from his examination of Breach. "Not someone," Wolfe said. Pulled up another image, this one showing a planetary system Steele didn't recognize. Caro 7 is the third world we found with this infection pattern. Before here, there was Hadrian 9. Before that, Epsilon Tertius. Every time, the same red fog, the same mutations, the same intelligence coordinating the transformed. Higher forms, Steele said, remembering the Hydra, the puppeteer. You're saying they coordinate through the psi-storms? Exactly. The Crimson Matrix creates a biological network. Think of it as a neural pathway spanning entire planets. The higher forms are nodes in that network. The puppeteers, the mindbenders, the broodmothers, they're all connected, sharing information, coordinating attacks with frightening precision. Wolf's eyes met Steele's through their faceplates. You're not fighting individual mutants, Sergeant. You're fighting a distributed intelligence that uses human flesh as its hardware. The medical bay fell silent, except for the hum of equipment. Steele felt his HUD flicker again, that strange sensation of something pressing against his thoughts. The suppressors, Hammer rumbled. Tell us about them. Wolf returned to the case, picking up one of the injectors with reverent care. 24 hours of protection. The compound interferes with the virus's ability to rewrite your DNA, creates a chemical firewall in your cells. But it's not perfect. You've all been exposed to the fog. The virus is already in your system, dormant but present.
The suppressor keeps it dormant, nothing more. Side effects? Stitch was suddenly all business, his medic training overriding everything else. Headaches, nausea, visual distortions, and Wolf hesitated. Time desynchronization. The suppressors interact with the psionic network in ways we don't fully understand. Your internal chronometers will drift. You might experience temporal anomalies, echoes of past events, phantom futures. Trust your equipment timers, not your perception. Jesus, Breach muttered. This just keeps getting better. Steele made a decision. Everyone, line up. We take the injection now, sync our HUD timers to Wolf's, and we move. Doctor, after we're dosed, you're going to show us how to restore the shuttle guidance system and get us all to the evacuation corridor. The team formed a line. Wolf administered the injections with practiced efficiency. First Steele, then Deadeye, Breach, Stitch, and finally Hammer. Each injector hissed as it pressed against their necks, delivering the blue compound through suit-to-skin ports. Steele felt it immediately. A coldness spreading from the injection site, racing through his bloodstream like ice water. His HUD flickered, displayed impossible data for a moment, then stabilized. A new timer appeared. 23, 47, 22. 23 hours, 47 minutes, 22 seconds of protection remaining. Sync your chronometers to mine, Wolf instructed. I injected myself at hour 3:12. You're at hour 3:38 now. The discrepancy is already beginning. Steele checked his timer again. 23, 47, 09. It had jumped backward 13 seconds. What the hell? Psionic interference, Wolf explained. The network is trying to synchronize you to its rhythm. The suppressor fights back, but it creates discontinuities. You'll get used to it. Maybe. Deadeye was staring at his rifle scope, his expression troubled. I'm seeing double. Thermal overlay is showing me 2 different readings. That's the desynchronization, Wolf said. One reading is current, the other is approximately 0.3 seconds in your past. Your brain will learn to filter it, but trust your instincts. The virus is already trying to influence your perception. Hammer flexed his hands, testing his grip on the sledgehammer. I feel cold, like my blood's turned to slush. Normal reaction. It will pass in 10 minutes. Wolf moved to a terminal, pulling up architectural schematics. Now the shuttle guidance system. The servers are in the central complex, 2 levels down. We need to upload navigational data and restore communication protocols. Without it, the evacuation birds won't be able to land in the fog. They'll crash blind. Steele studied the map. 2 levels down meant going deeper into the complex, into areas where the fog would be thicker, where more mutants would be concentrated. How long will the upload take? 47 minutes if the servers are intact, less if they're damaged. Wolf pulled up another display, this one showing a holographic recording. But before we go, you need to see this. The last log from Dr. Sarah Kim, head of xenobiology. She recorded it 3 days before the complex fell. The hologram flickered to life, showing a woman in a lab coat, her face haggard, eyes ringed with dark circles. Behind her, Steele could see the same medical bay they were standing in now, but pristine, undamaged. If anyone finds this, Dr. Kim's recorded voice was steady despite the fear in her eyes. You need to know the truth. We thought we were studying a natural phenomenon. We were wrong. The Crimson virus didn't evolve here. It was waiting for us to arrive, to establish colonies, to provide it with raw material. The hologram's background showed movement, red fog creeping under door seals. We analyzed the viral structure, found markers, intentional design. This isn't infection, it's invasion. A colonization strategy billions of years old, seeded across the galaxy by something we can't comprehend. We are not victims. Dr. Kim leaned toward the camera, her voice dropping to a whisper. We are incubators. The virus was waiting for us, and now it's awake. The recording cut off with a burst of static. The medical bay was silent. Steele felt the weight of those words pressing down on him like a physical force. Billions of years old, seeded across the galaxy, waiting. There's more, Wolf said quietly. He pulled up another file, this one heavily encrypted. Patient 0, the first human infected on Kara 7. His name was Colonel Marcus Steele. Steele's blood ran cold. Steele? That's your namesake, Wolf finished. The legendary war hero.
The man whose tactical innovations saved humanity during the Hadrian 9 campaign. The face on every recruitment poster, the symbol of human resistance. Wolf's expression was grim. He was also the first human the Crimson Matrix successfully transformed while retaining full cognitive function. For 3 weeks he commanded the defense of Karo 7. For 3 weeks he was human. And then he turned, Steele breathed. Oh God. Command named this operation after him. Glass Veil. We all wear his insignia. Deadeye was checking his equipment, his movements mechanical. If Patient 0 was that high level, and he turned, what does that say about the virus's capabilities? That it's learning, Wolf said simply. Every human it transforms, every mind it consumes, it gains their knowledge, their tactics, their memories. Colonel Steele knew everything about human military doctrine, and now, the network knows it too. Stitch spoke up, his voice tight. The broodmother you mentioned earlier, the one coordinating the mutants, is it? We don't know, Wolf interrupted. The broodmother in the Metro Nest could be him, could be something else entirely. The network doesn't work like human consciousness. Identity becomes fluid, distributed across hundreds of hosts. Steele's HUD timer flickered, 23:39:17. He'd lost another 7 minutes somewhere in the conversation. The desynchronization was accelerating. All right, Steele said, forcing his voice to remain calm. Here's what we do. We move to the servers, upload the navigation data, and get to the evacuation corridor. Wolf, you're with us now. Stick close to Hammer. Everyone else, standard formation. Weapons hot, suppressors on. We've got, he checked his timer again, 23 hours and 38 minutes of protection. After that, we're on borrowed time. One more thing, Wolf said. He pulled a small device from his pocket, a portable hard drive. This contains everything. All my research, all the data from the complex, encrypted transmission logs from the other infected worlds. If we don't make it out, this information needs to reach command. Promise me, Sergeant, no matter what happens, this data gets uploaded. Steele took the drive, secured it in a reinforced pouch on his belt. You have my word. The team moved toward the medical bay's exit, weapons raised. Stitch did a final check on Breach's suit seal. It was holding, barely. The fog exposure contained for now. Hammer took point, his sledgehammer resting on his shoulder. Deadeye's rifle swept the corridor beyond, his enhanced vision cutting through the red fog. Steele's HUD painted the route. 2 levels down, through laboratories that had been cutting edge before the complex fell. Through corridors where scientists had worked to understand the virus, never realizing they were studying their own extinction. "Boss," Deadeye whispered over comms, "my timer just jumped backward. Lost 2 minutes." "Mine too," Breach confirmed. "This is messing with my demolition calculations. I'm seeing multiple countdown timers for the same charge." "Trust your instincts," Wolf advised. "The network is trying to synchronize you, but the suppressor creates interference. You'll experience echoes, temporal shadows. Don't let it distract you." They stepped into the corridor, and Steele immediately felt the difference. The fog here was thicker, more aggressive, tendrils reaching toward them like searching fingers. His armor's surface began to smoke where the fog touched it, the enzymatic action eating through the ceramic coating micrometer by micrometer. "Movement," warned, "ceiling level, multiple contacts." Steele looked up and saw them. Crawlers, dozens of them, clinging to pipes and support beams. But they weren't attacking. They were watching. Heads tilted at identical angles, movements synchronized, waiting for orders from the network. "They know we have the suppressor," Wolf said quietly. "They can feel the disruption in the psionic field. You're like static in their shared consciousness now. It confuses them." "Good," replied. "Let's use that confusion. Move out, double time, stay tight." They advanced through the complex's bowels, and Steele's timer continued its erratic dance. 23, 34, 22, 2037, 41, 2031, 09. Time was becoming elastic, unreliable. He focused on the mission, on the weight of his carbine, on the sound of his team's breathing over comms. Behind them, the crawlers began to follow, maintaining a precise 50-meter distance. Not attacking, just watching, waiting. The network knew where they were going, and it was curious about what 5 humans with disrupted psionic signatures might do next. Steele's HUD marked hour 417 as they reached the stairwell leading down to the servers. 23 hours and 17 minutes of protection remained. Chapter 6: Whispers of Death and Mimicry. The stairwell descended into darkness thick enough to choke on. Steele's helmet lamp cut through the red fog like a blade through water, revealing concrete steps slick with condensation and something else. A biological film that pulsed with faint bioluminescence. Each footfall made a wet sucking sound that echoed in the confined space. 2 levels down, whispered, his civilian hazmat suit making him look fragile compared to the armored soldiers surrounding him. "The server room is at the bottom, but Sergeant, these stairs weren't this deteriorated 3 days ago. The virus is accelerating its transformation of the infrastructure." Steele's HUD flickered. Hour 423, then jumped. Hour 419. The temporal desynchronization was getting worse. He pushed the distraction aside and focused on the tactical reality. 5 soldiers, 1 civilian scientist, descending into the throat of hell. "Breach, any seismic readings?" Steele asked quietly. The demolitions expert checked his sensors, frowning at the readout. "Lots of movement below us. Could be structural settling, could be something else. The entire foundation is vibrating at a frequency I've never seen before. Like a heartbeat." "The network's core processing center is likely below the servers," Wolf explained, his voice tight with barely controlled fear. "The broodmother we detected earlier, she's probably using the metro tunnels as her primary nest, but there could be neural clusters throughout the complex. Think of them as synaptic nodes." "So we're walking into the thing's brain," Hammer rumbled from the rearguard position. "Fantastic." They reached the bottom of the stairwell. Steele raised his fist. "Halt." Ahead, a heavy security door stood partially open, its electronic lock fried by power surges or something worse. Beyond it, the server corridor stretched into fog-shrouded darkness. Deadeye moved forward, his rifle scope cycling through vision modes. "I've got heat signatures. Lots of them. They're positioned behind doors? Boss, there are at least a dozen crawlers in there, and they're using the server room doors as cover." "Tactical positions," Steele breathed. They're learning faster than the briefings indicated. He signaled for the team to stack up on the doorway. Through the gap, he could see the corridor, 50 meters long, lined with server room entrances on both sides. And in the red fog, shapes moved with disturbing coordination. A crawler emerged partially from behind a door, and Steele's blood went cold. The mutant was holding the door like a riot shield, its clawed hand gripping the edge, using it to protect its center mass. Behind it, another crawler made a hand signal, 3 fingers, then a fist. Military tactical gestures. "They're using our own doctrine against us," Stitch whispered, his medical scanner forgotten. "Jesus Christ, they're learning our hand signals." "The Colonel Steele connection," Wolf said grimly. The network absorbed his tactical knowledge. Now every mutant has access to basic military training. Steele assessed the situation. The corridor was a kill box. No cover for his team, multiple firing positions for the enemy, and limited maneuverability. They needed to cross 50 meters of open space while the crawlers held every advantage. "Breach, can you smoke them out?" "I can blow the doors, but that'll bury the servers under rubble. We need those systems intact to upload the navigation data." "Then we go in hard and fast. Hammer takes point, draws their fire. Deadeye, you're on precision shots. Any crawler that exposes itself for targeting, you drop it. Stitch, Wolf, your center, protected. Breach and I will cover the flanks. On my mark." "Wait," Deadeye's voice was urgent. "I'm seeing something else in there. Heat signatures that don't match crawlers. More humanoid. Standing positions, not crouched. And they're wearing armor." Steele's HUD tried to process what Deadeye was seeing, but the fog interference made identification impossible. "Survivors? Or whisperers in stolen gear," Wolf warned. "We've documented cases of partially transformed humans wearing the equipment of fallen soldiers. They retain enough motor function to operate weapons, but their cognition is completely subsumed by the network. Only one way to find out. Move!" They burst through the doorway in textbook formation. Hammer charged forward, his sledgehammer raised, drawing immediate attention. 3 crawlers emerged from behind their door shields, and Deadeye's rifle barked 3 times in rapid succession. 3 clean headshots that dropped the mutants before they could close. But the corridor erupted into chaos. More crawlers poured out from the server rooms, and they moved with frightening coordination, covering each other's advances, using suppressing fire from... God, one of them had a rifle, a human weapon, firing with crude but effective accuracy. Contact left. Steele put a burst into a crawler that tried to flank them. His HUD showed ammunition count, 31 rounds remaining. Stitch and Wolf pressed against the corridor wall, trying to make themselves small targets. Breach was laying down suppressing fire, his carbine spitting rounds that forced the crawlers to duck behind their improvised shields. Then Steele saw them, the figures Deadeye had detected. 3 shapes in military armor, moving through the fog with human precision. For a moment, hope surged in his chest. Survivors? Lieutenant Raven's squad, maybe? Or... "Boss," Deadeye's voice cut through the firefight. "Those aren't friendlies. Look at their movements. They're too synchronized, too perfect." Steele looked closer and felt his stomach drop. The 3 armored figures moved in absolute lockstep, their gestures mirror images of each other. As he watched, all 3 turned their heads at the exact same angle, tracking his position with inhuman precision. "Mimics," Wolf breathed. "Oh God, they've adapted that far already." The mimics raised their weapons, stolen carbines, probably stripped from dead soldiers, and opened fire with surprising accuracy. Steele felt rounds impact his ceramic armor, felt the kinetic force drive him back a step. "Fall back to the stairwell," he ordered, but Hammer was too far forward, already engaged with 2 crawlers. The big man's sledgehammer crushed one mutant's skull, but the other slashed at his leg joints, looking for gaps in his armor. "I'm not leaving, Hammer," Breach shouted, charging forward with his carbine firing on full auto. The mimics advanced, and now Steele could see more details. They wore the armor of fallen soldiers, complete with unit patches and personal modifications. But something was wrong. Their movements were too fluid, too precise, and their faces, visible through cracked faceplates, were absolutely blank. No expression, no emotion. One of the mimics spoke, and Steele's blood turned to ice. "Cleanup squad, sit rep. We need immediate extraction at these coordinates." It was his voice, perfect replication, down to the cadence and tone. The mimic was using Steele's own words against him, probably recorded from their radio communications. "Don't listen to them," Wolf shouted. "They're psychological weapons. They harvest audio recordings from fallen soldiers, use them to create confusion." But it was working. Steele saw Stitch hesitate, his weapon tracking between targets, unsure which was real and which was mimicry. The fog carried more voices now, dozens of them, hundreds, all whispering through corrupted radio channels. "Help me, the children, please, God, someone help." "Sector clear, moving to secondary objective." "I love you, Sarah. Tell the kids Daddy's coming home." Each voice was perfect. Each voice was stolen from someone who had died screaming in this hellish place. The psychological assault was devastating. "Comms discipline," Steele barked. "Switch to encrypted channel Baker 7. Ignore all other transmissions." The team switched frequencies, but the damage was done. Steele could see it in their body language, the slight hesitation, the uncertainty. The mimics had planted seeds of doubt, and in combat, doubt killed faster than bullets. Hammer finished the second crawler with a brutal overhead strike and turned to rejoin the team. He moved through the fog, his distinctive silhouette unmistakable even in the poor visibility. "Hammer, report," Steele called over the encrypted channel. "All clear on the forward position. These things are learning, but they're not learning fast enough. Let's finish this and get to those servers." Something in Hammer's voice made Deadeye pause. The sniper's enhanced vision locked on to the approaching figure, studying details invisible to the rest of the team. "Boss," Deadeye said slowly, his rifle coming up. "When's the last time you saw Hammer blink?" Everyone froze. Steele looked at the figure approaching them, massive, armored, carrying a sledgehammer. Every detail perfect. But now that Deadeye mentioned it, the figure's eyes were open, unblinking, staring. "That's not him," Deadeye whispered. The mimic Hammer's head tilted at an angle no human neck should bend. Its mouth opened, and Hammer's voice came out. "What's wrong, boss? Don't you trust me?" From behind them, deeper in the fog, came the real Hammer's voice. "Boss, don't shoot. I'm coming in from the rear. Had to circle around. Tunnel collapse cut me off." Two Hammers. One real, one a nightmare wearing his face. The mimic charged. It moved with Hammer's mass, but inhuman speed, the sledgehammer swinging in an arc that would cave in Steele's chest. He dove aside, felt the weapon's passage as a pressure wave against his armor. "Light it up," Steele shouted. The team opened fire on the mimic. Rounds punched through its stolen armor, black itcher spraying from the wounds. But it didn't stop. It swung the hammer again, catching Breach in the shoulder and sending the demolitions expert flying into the wall with bone-breaking force. Then the real Hammer arrived. He came in like a freight train, his actual sledgehammer connecting with the mimic's spine with a sound like shattering concrete. The false hammer collapsed, its disguise failing as the transformation tried to hold together. For a horrible moment, Steele saw it shift between states. Human face melting into something alien, then back to human, trapped in a quantum flux of identity. Deadeye put 3 rounds through its skull, ending the horror. "Everyone okay?" Steele demanded, checking his team. Breach was groaning, holding his shoulder. But Stitch was already there with a medical scanner. "Dislocated shoulder," Stitch reported. "I can pop it back in, but he'll need pain management." "Do it fast. We can't stay here." The corridor was a charnel house. Dead crawlers littered the floor, their black blood eating through the tile. The two other mimics had retreated deeper into the fog, but Steele could still hear them, speaking with stolen voices, creating phantom contacts, spreading paranoia. "How do we fight them?" Hammer asked, breathing hard. "How do we know what's real?" "Details," Deadeye said, his sniper's eye already analyzing. "They're perfect from a distance, but up close, there are tells. They don't blink, they don't sweat, micro-expressions are wrong. And they can't replicate scent or thermal signatures perfectly. My scope showed a 0.5-degree temperature differential. So we verify everything," Steele said. "Call and response protocols. Anyone approaches without proper authentication, we treat them as hostile." "That mimic knew tactical procedures," Stitch pointed out, having successfully relocated Breach's shoulder. "It used your voice, Steele. What if it had known our authentication codes?" No one had an answer for that. The paranoia was setting in deep now, a poison worse than the red fog. Wolf had moved to one of the server room doors, his portable terminal already interfacing with the ancient systems. "We're here. I can start the upload now, but it'll take 47 minutes. We need to hold this position." "Defensive perimeter," Steele ordered, trying to ignore the whispers that still echoed through the fog. "Hammer, you're on the north approach. Deadeye, find high ground. There." He pointed to a structural support beam. "Breach, despite your shoulder, I need you watching our 6. Stitch, stay with Wolf and keep him alive. I'll float and reinforce wherever we need it." The team moved into position. Wolf's fingers flew across his terminal, codes scrolling past faster than Steele could read. Around them, the server room hummed to life, ancient systems waking after years of dormancy. Steele's HUD flickered. Hour 5:03. Then, hour 4:58. The desynchronization was getting worse. "Wolf, how's the upload?" 43 minutes remaining. The servers are damaged but functional. Navigation data is transferring now. That's when Steele heard it. A sound so faint he almost missed it. A child's laughter, coming from deeper in the fog. Then a woman's sob. A man's prayer. Dozens of voices, hundreds, all speaking at once, creating a choir of stolen humanity. "The fog is carrying recordings," Wolf explained without looking up from his work. "The mimics don't just steal voices, they broadcast them, create acoustic confusion, psychological warfare at its finest." "Boss," Deadeye called down from his perch. "I've got movement on my scope, lots of it. They're massing for another push." Steele checked his ammunition, 23 rounds. This was going to be tight. Then his armor dented inward. No impact, no sound, just a sudden pressure against his chest plate that drove him to one knee. Steele looked down and saw the ceramic crumpling as if crushed by invisible hands. "Contact," he gasped. "Invisible. Something's—" Another dent appeared in his shoulder guard, then another in his thigh plate. It was like being beaten by a ghost, each impact precisely targeted at armor weak points. "Puppeteers," Wolf shouted. "It's controlling metal. The server room equipment, it's using it as weapons." Steele rolled aside as a desk chair flew through the air where he'd been standing. Around them, metal objects began to levitate. Tools, components, even spent shell casings from their earlier firefight. All of it hovering, orbiting an invisible point in the fog. "I can't see it," Deadeye's frustration was clear. "Thermals show nothing. It's not there." "It's there," Wolf said grimly. "Puppeteers have almost no body mass, just nerve tissue and psionic organs. Your conventional sensors can't detect them." A wrench flew at Hammer's head. He ducked, but 3 more objects followed, harrying him away from his defensive position. The puppeteer was coordinating perfectly with the mimics and crawlers, using telekinetics to disrupt their formation. Steele's HUD showed security camera feeds from around the corridor. On every screen, the corridor appeared empty. Just fog and the team's heat signatures. No puppeteer, no telekinetic entity. Nothing. But his armor was still being crushed, new dents appearing with each invisible strike. "Breach," Steele called out. "Fragmentation grenade. Throw it blind into the fog, 30 meters forward." The demolitions expert didn't hesitate. His grenade flew true, disappearing into the crimson haze. The explosion came 3 seconds later, followed by a shriek, high-pitched, almost ultrasonic, the sound of something in terrible pain. The telekinetic assault stopped. Metal objects clattered to the floor. "You got it," Deadeye confirmed. "Partial thermal signature now. It's wounded, camouflage failing. Permission to engage?" "Granted." Deadeye's rifle barked once. In the fog, something small and pale fell from midair, hitting the ground with a wet splat. Through his scope, Steele saw it briefly. A knot of glistening tissue wrapped around a skull the size of a child's fist, nerve fibers extending like tentacles. The puppeteer, finally visible in death. "Clear," Deadeye reported. "But boss, I'm seeing more movement, lots more. They're regrouping for another assault." Wolf's terminal chimed. "Upload at 17%. We need to hold for 39 more minutes." Steele checked his HUD. Hour 5:11. Ammunition, 23 rounds. Team status, breach wounded, everyone exhausted, paranoia spreading through the squad like its own infection. And they still had 39 minutes before they could move to extraction. "Then we hold," Steele said, with more confidence than he felt. "Every minute we buy gets us closer to getting off this rock. Weapons tight, people, make every shot count." In the fog, the whispers continued. Stolen voices, stolen lives, stolen humanity, all crying out in the darkness. The mimics were still out there, learning, adapting, preparing for the next assault. And somewhere in the depths of the complex, the network watched through 1,000 eyes, studied them with alien intelligence, and plotted their destruction with the tactical genius of Colonel Marcus Steele, the hero who had become humanity's worst nightmare. Steele's timer flickered. Hour 5:14. 22 hours and 46 minutes of protection remained.
Thank you for listening. New chapters will be released daily on the channel. This audio material was produced exclusively for the Section 56 channel. All rights reserved.